We're going to cover lessons 326 and 327 today, cell differentiation and specialization. But before we do that, I want to kind of review a little bit the cell cycle. Last week, you learned about interphase and mitosis and cytokinesis. You wrote about mitosis in our last assignment. You had to write about prophase and metaphase, anaphase and telophase. That's right, the process of cell division. But cells spend most of their time in this phase right here called interphase. This is where they grow, they replicate their DNA, and then they grow and continue their final preparations for mitosis and cell division. So after mitosis occurs and cells divide, right, through the process of cytokinesis, they split into two daughter cells. What happens, right? Well, they enter interphase. Cells will then go through the process during interphase of cell differentiation and specialization. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk first about cell differentiation. This goes with lesson 326. Cell differentiation causes cells to change and specialize. An organism starts out as a single cell that makes identical copies of itself through mitosis and cytokinesis. And you can see the process of mitosis here. It starts with prophase and then metaphase, where those chromosomes line up right in the middle of the cell. Anaphase, where the chromosomes start to move away from each other towards opposite ends of the cell. Telophase, where the chromosomes start to unwind and the nuclear envelope starts to develop again, two new nuclear envelopes. And then cytokinesis is the actual process of cell division. It says here a zygote divides by mitosis, and all of its cells start out similar, right? Because in the process of mitosis, you're making identical daughter cells. But all the cells in our bodies and other organisms don't look the same. They have different jobs. So we can't continue to just make identical cells. So that's where cell differentiation comes in, right? It answers the question, how does a single cell, the original zygote, give rise to so many different kinds of cells? Basic cells change into specialized cells during what we call cell differentiation. After cells form, in other words, after they go through cytokinesis and you get your two new daughter cells, they change. That's how multicellular organisms develop. Stem cells, you've all heard of stem cells, I'm sure, are animal cells that haven't differentiated yet. So all of those cells going through mitosis, they're producing identical daughter cells, and those are what we call stem cells. They haven't changed yet. They're all identical to the original zygote. In plant cells, those stem cells have a different name. They're called meristem cells. So you can still see it. It's in there, stem cells, but we call them meristem cells in plants. So in animal cells, those original identical cells to the original zygote, those are called stem cells. And in plants, they're called meristem cells. These are cells that haven't differentiated yet. They are identical to the original zygote. So most differentiated cells do not divide. So once a cell goes through mitosis and then gets its job, so to speak, it's not going to divide again. From a zygote, cells arise that will divide and make new cells. These cells are called stem cells. More specifically, they are called embryonic stem cells. It might surprise you to learn that once a cell is differentiated, it will not likely divide again. So what happens if your body needs new cells? There are places in an adult human where other stem cells reside. Adult stem cells are found only in certain tissues and can only differentiate into specific cell types. The brain, liver, skin, bone marrow, blood vessels, and skeletal muscles are all sites where there are adult stem cells. Lesson 327 covers, cell specialization. What happens after that differentiation happens? So cell differentiation leads to cells that are specialized. They have specific jobs with specific functions and specific structures. And you can see here, I have a whole smattering of different kinds of cells in our bodies. And I love this slide because it just shows you how different all of our cells are because they all have different jobs. So once those cells, those stem cells decide, hey, it's time for me to go become a red blood cell, or it's time for me to become a fat cell. They differentiate, they change, and then they go off and they do their job. So you can see here, these are smooth muscle cells. These are commonly found in your organs. Organs such as your stomach use smooth muscle tissue to perform work. This is a melanocyte. It's a specialized cell that protects the skin from UV radiation. These are layers of the skin here. This would be like the top layer of the skin, and then going deeper into the layers of the skin. This here is a picture of neurons. The large neurons of the human brain are connected in complex pathways. These are lipocytes. These are large expandable fat cells. Epithelial cells are in your small intestine. And then these are specialized kidney cells that are involved in filtering waste from the blood. I always think that looks like a walnut, but it's not. Those are kidney cells. These are retina rod and cone cells inside the human eye. Here we have a red blood cell that transports oxygen in the blood. And you can see, again, here they all are, all of the different specialized cells. Now, of course, these aren't all of them. This is just a smattering of some examples.